Barrett and welcome to the 2016 wash-up for the Sydney Swans. They were the minor premiers in a season that produced many highlights at the club, but they'd be bitterly disappointed about falling over at the last hurdle. Matthew Lloyd.
Thanks, Damo. Yeah, they would have surprised themselves, I think, with how many youngsters they blooded and how well they performed. But to lose their second grand final in 3 years and underperform really on the day, they'd be bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, to make the 3 grand finals in the past 5 seasons, an amazing effort. But John Longmire now has to live with the CV that has the 2 losses and the 1 win. And look, we start these wash-ups, don't we, with highlights. And Buddy Franklin, like a few of his teammates, couldn't get into the grand final in the way that he would have liked. But when you look at it as a full season, his return with the 80-plus goals that he managed after the mental health issues of last year was a real highlight for them. And just looking at 2 specific games here, Lordo, that this long bomb against the Hawthorn team in round 9 won that game for the Swans, or it's killed it off from a contest perspective. And then round 21 against St Kilda, he really turned it on in a 2008 way when he picked up 15 disposals and kicked 3 goals in that 1 quarter.
Yeah, unbelievable it was. And for mine, I just touched on the kids earlier, and they debuted 7 players this year. So that's my highlight for the season, just to see all these names who had big impacts. The first 5 in particular: Mills, Aliir, Hewitt, Papley and Marsh. And Hiscox and Foote also debuted. You've got Naismith and Richards, who'd played a handful of games before this season, plus Isaac Heaney. So the future's very, very bright for the Sydney Swans, although they couldn't win the big one.
No, and Aliir with just so few games experience ended up being a crucial out, wasn't he?
Super play. He could nearly be the best defender in the game, and they wouldn't have thought that at the start of the year, yeah.
Okay. Low light time. Michael Talia didn't have a good year. Got kicked out of the Bulldogs around about this time last year, and then couldn't crack it at the Swans. Got a knee injury early, and then was done for a drug bust during the year. So he's had better years, I would have thought.
Yeah, no, bad year for him. And my low light was just the bitter feud for the Kieran Jack. The Jack family, where he didn't allow his parents, or the feud as it stopped them from going to his 200th game.
It's very sad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sad, but the highlight was him kicking the first goal of the game and Sydney causing a major upset at Geelong that night, and he was best on ground in the match, unbelievably, to play under that pressure, and just to see his partner up in the grandstand after that goal, just in tears, just showed the emotions for that Jack family, and unfortunately they weren't at the grand final either, so... it's tough when things happen to families like that.
Yeah, it is. They finished top of the ladder after the home and away season, lost their first game and then lost the grand final. As such, Lotto, when it comes to marking them out of 10, I'm only going to give them a 7. I think you have to judge them pretty harshly because of the falling away and the expectations that came with what they were meant to do.
That's fair enough, but I've given them an 8, an extra point, just because I thought the injuries they got at the wrong time of the year was really what cost them probably in the end.
Okay, one of those injuries, there's a man I'm going to give a Christmas bonus to, Callum Mills, an extraordinary, I feel, debut AFL season. Just looked as though he was a 10-year player, not the 1-year player, and again couldn't get his explosive burst running going in the grand final, but the courage and the reading of the play and the authority, and I know from speaking to people close to this team, the leadership that he already displays is something that this club is going to benefit from a very long time.
Spot on. Be surprised if he didn't captain the club one day. My Christmas bonus is for Aliir. I just thought that they missed him badly in the grand final. They had no run. Probably playing Mills and also McVeigh underdone. They couldn't run, and then they played Laidler, who doesn't really provide that. So this guy can play on talls and smalls, and they drafted him as a speculative pick late in the draft because there was no talls around. They thought Grundy and Richards were going to retire. He's been a phenomenon this year.
Now, have you got a little bit left over for your Christmas bonus?
I have. It's
Dane Rampy, maybe?
Dane Rampy, the way he thought through this situation, she could have been Pollock straight over the fence, and just to do what he did just shows what a star he is. He was nearly their best player on grand final day. Yeah. Love this moment with the female goal umpire there.
I think she was quite appreciative too, judging by the look there. Hey, chopping block time, and when we use that terminology, it's got a vast definition. But Tom Mitchell, Lotto, I mean, he's had now 4 months of speculation about not going to be there. I would have thought that if it was a done deal, he would have stayed. So I think he will find himself a new home. The money that the Swans are offering him is not what he's being offered elsewhere, at Hawthorn particularly.
Yeah, my chopping block is for the man you just touched on, Michael Talia. I just think that with the emergence of Aliir, Rampy, Grundy, those type of players, I just don't see how he gets a spot at Sydney. Sam Reid, who we'll touch on later on as well, he'll come back next year, so I'd nearly move Talia on.
Okay, let's have a look at one of the lighter moments in the Swans 2016 season. Buddy Franklin, that man who kicked more than 80 goals, was lining up for one against Essendon early in the year. And just to go back to the guy in the background there,
well, the Bombers need all the help they can get, and he must be a Bomber fan looking to help them out against Big Buddy at the SCG.
I think mooning's illegal in some states these days. Hey, they're going to need to do a few things to step up and improve and to at least maintain where they are, because they did look as though they were a bit of a way off the Bulldogs. Dean Towers is one thing I think they need to look at. Lordo, in these close finishes, should have gone short there to Buddy Franklin in this game against Richmond, which they did lose when Lloyd kicked that after the siren goal. And unfortunately for Towers, and we did discuss this at the time, about 9 weeks later, had the ball again in a closely fought game, this time against Hawthorn. He decided to go short this time, but unfortunately failed to execute. And, he just needs to probably compose himself a bit differently.
And as a result, and eventually lost his spot and couldn't take part in the finals, so even though they had injuries. Mine here is Sam Reid for next year. I just think Sam Reid needs to get his body right. You know, he's such an important player to them. Like Aaliyah, how good would it have been to have Sam Reid in the finals, whether it be forward or back? So I think with Tippett struggling and maybe being more a ruckman, Sam Reid alongside Buddy Franklin would be a fair combination next year.
The faith in his body and ability to get out there, though, was not high.
Well, he and his brother, unfortunately, just continually getting injured.
Yep. OK, 2017, where have you got the Sydney Swans?
I've got them stagnating. So they finished on top. I can see them finishing in the top 4, but whether they can go on and win it, I think with GWS and the Dogs, I probably don't think they can win it next year.
I'm the same. I've got them stagnating because they just win matches enough to get themselves into the high end of the ladder. But just with what we saw and the inability to get really involved in the trade period worries me a little bit. So but I've got them stagnating there. Hey, Lordy, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the wash-up for the Swans in 2016.